What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Frankie D'Astoli Show. I am your host, Frankie D'Astoli, and I am back. I'm back from the flu. The flu took me out for a good 3 days in full. And then I started to make the road to recovery, and it's been taking everybody out. I mean, it's absolutely out there just knee cutting people. I feel like everybody that I talk to, they've either had the flu or they know somebody that's got the flu. And this thing is just like going around like wildfire. And it really like had me out for a good couple of days. And thank God Christina and Bernadette didn't catch it. That was like my biggest fear as this was all going on. But thankfully they're okay. And I have, I'm not saying I'm 100% recovered, but I probably feel a good like 85, 90% enough to get back in the studio, get behind the mic, enough to get back in the field, start looking at property and thinking about probably why I got this. I mean, I just look at gross properties every single week and breathe in disgusting air. And it cannot be good for my body long term. I mean, it just must not be. I should probably start wearing masks as I go in some of these houses. I was thinking about this as I was going back in bad houses, still like just coming off of the flu. I was like, this is probably how I got this thing. But as a real estate investor, you do what you got to do. That's pretty much it. But I feel good. I feel good to be back. Voice is kind of still creeping its way through. But I was out for the count for sure. I mean, I can't remember the last time I felt that sick. Like it was bad. I didn't get the flu shot this year, but even still, I know people that are getting the flu shot and they're still catching. It just depends on like the strand that you get and stuff like that. So, all in all, I'm feeling good. I'm happy to be back. I apologize for missing a Wednesday. It's funny, like a couple weeks ago, I made a podcast episode and I was like, the Frankie D'Astoli Show goes on day in, day out, Monday, Wednesday, Friday drops. The only reason why I won't drop is if I get sick. And since I made that episode, I've gotten sick like twice. So I kind of jinxed myself a little bit there. But all in all, yes, the Frankie D'Astoli Show goes on. We will be trying to drop on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, but I should throw a disclaimer out there. My second born, my son, is due in about 3.5 weeks now. I mean, Christina's going to be 37 weeks this upcoming week. So, yeah, in about 3.5 weeks. And when he is due, I do not know what the schedule of the Frankie D'Astoli Show will look like, to be totally honest with you. If I could get an episode in at the hospital, I'm kidding. I'm not going to be doing that. But I mean, maybe, who knows? I can be a little creative sometimes with some stuff. But at the end of the day, I don't know exactly what the schedule is going to be like. So just bear with me. It might be a little sporadic. Some episodes may come on some not quarterly scheduled days on the Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, just to kind of keep filling in some content. At the end of the day, I'm going to be at the mercy of my kids, Bernadette and our son, who's God willing is going to have a smooth delivery as Christina prepares for the day. So, but I'm very excited to be back, and I got some really, really cool news. If you guys aren't following me on Instagram, Frankie D'Astoli_REI, I definitely recommend following. I post a lot of content on there. But on February 11th of 2025, we are going to be hosting the first ever Rosary and Real Estate event. And I couldn't be more excited for it. It's going to be at the Tap Room in Haddon Township, New Jersey. It's going to be from 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. It's an in-person event only. So if you are in Jersey, PA, New York, Delaware, wherever you might be, that you kind of feel like making the trip over there. Again, I know it's only an hour and a half event. So don't feel like you got to come from far and wide to get there. But if you want to learn about the rosary, if you want to learn what the rosary is and why we should pray it, if you want to learn why the rosary will make you a more holy person, will bring you closer to Jesus and to Mary, and you want to learn how to incorporate it into your daily life to become a better person, a better follower of Christ, then you should definitely come out to this event. And if you want to learn more about real estate investing, if you want to learn what it takes to buy your first property, or what it takes to scale a real estate portfolio, or how to build generational wealth, then this is an event that you would definitely want to come out to. My plan is to try to have an event once a month. But like I said, with the anticipated arrival of my kid, it's going to be a little hard possibly in the beginning to make that happen. But my wife, Christina, is an absolute tank and a supportive traditional Catholic wife and homemaker. So she will probably find a way for me to still make it happen. But I will be trying to hold them at least once a month. If not once every 6 weeks or whatever the case might be in that regard. So it will mostly, for the most part, be in person, but I do plan on making some sort of free or charitable donation membership program where we maybe do some sort of weekly or monthly meetings that are a little more kind of secluded and exclusive. So keep an eye out for some of that stuff. But February 11th, if you can get out there in person, totally free event. And there's going to be giveaways. I'm going to be giving away a rosary, a Pray the Rosary by Real Estate sweatshirt. I'm going to have the ability for anybody that's there to purchase a Pray the Rosary by the Real Estate sweatshirt or hat. And I'm also going to be giving away some books on the Rosary, some books on real estate. So I'm very excited for the giveaways. I'm excited for the community and the camaraderie. I'm excited for the Rosary and Real Estate talk. And if you are looking to build generational wealth while maintaining spiritual poverty, then this is an event that you definitely want to come out to. And just the movement itself, Pray the Rosary by Real Estate, is a movement that you want to be a part of. And I love it. I love what we're building. I'm so excited to see it launch. And I'm so excited to meet some great people at this event who are looking to take their faith and financial freedom to the next level. So if you are in the area, again, I would love to have you guys out. But if not, no worries. Just continue to pray the Rosary and continue to buy real estate. So, excuse me. Again, like I said, I'm coming off the flu. So I may be a little bit choppy in my voice, so bear with me. But I have a really, really exciting episode today. It's going to be a two-parter. It's a parter. It's a deuce. And it's what it takes to scale a rental portfolio. I have been in the process of scaling a rental portfolio for just about now 10 months, a little bit more. Steve and I, my partner Steve, who eventually I will be having on the show, him and I started D&D Equities. We actually formed the LLC on February 29th, on the day of leap year of 2024, which is kind of cool, kind of unique. And we bought our first rental property together on April 12th of 2024. So we're here at the time of this recording. It's the beginning of February. So we're just a little bit under that. I think we're probably about that 10-month mark. And we, as of January 31st, closed on our, what is it, 17th property, 19th door, I think it was. Yes. 17. Let me count my board real quick. 1, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 16 properties, 18 doors. Maybe that's right. It's something along those lines. Either 16 or 17 properties. We have to recount that. But 16 or 17th property that we closed on. And we've been doing this for 10 months. So we're averaging close to 2 acquisitions a month. And in 2025, we really plan on kicking that up. And our plan is by May of 2026 to be at 50 doors. And that's fully occupied. So we're not at fully occupied at this moment, right? And that's part of kind of scaling a portfolio. When you scale a portfolio, you're not going to be fully occupied because you're constantly buying new acquisitions, and you're either turning over the tenants that are in there through, peaceful, we'll call it peaceful exits or evictions, or you're buying them vacant, right? And then you're going to start renovating them and getting them, ready for tenants. So they're never really going to be fully occupied until you're at kind of a little bit of a standstill. So, but our goal is for May of 2026 to be fully occupied at 50 doors. So at that point, we're probably going to be at about 40 to 45 acquisitions, if not more. We might even be at like 50 acquisitions, but the goal is to be solidified and occupied at 50. So, but yeah, we've been acquiring pretty much 2 for the past 2 a month for the past 10 months. And we plan on kicking that up even more in 2025. And as I was breaking this down, there's a few things that you need to know when you're going and scaling a portfolio. And I broke it down into 8 particular factors. And these factors, for the most part, are internal, but there is one in those 8 that is external, which we're going to talk about. And then we're also going to talk about the mechanism, right? So what is the mechanism? What is the actual engine that helps you scale a portfolio? What is the strategy is probably an even better word to use for it. And in my strategy, we use the BRRRR strategy, the BRRRR method, which stands for buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat, which we're going to break down a little bit further as well. That's probably going to be more so in part 2. Whereas part 1, I'm really going to talk about what it takes to scale a portfolio on that internal aspect, the 8 points needed to scale a portfolio. So I'm very excited about the episode. If you already have a real estate portfolio, this is good to kind of just help you, maybe put some things in perspective of some things that at least that I put down of things that you absolutely need. If it's something that you want to start going after, my plan is hopefully with this to give you the tools that you need to actually execute on it. So the first point is vision. And I've talked about vision on the show quite a few times now, especially when we're talking about goal setting in the beginning of the year. But when you have vision for scaling a portfolio, you need both short-term vision and you need long-term vision. Long-term vision is really what are those goals of what the portfolio looks like after a certain period of time, right? And first and foremost, like for me, as I just mentioned, in May of 2026, the vision is those 50 doors fully occupied. And to take that a step further, it's $400 in net cash flow per door. Now, what does that equate to? That equals $20,000. So what I'm saying is by May of 2026, Steve and I, my partner, want to have fully occupied 50 doors at $400 cash flow, bringing in $20,000 per month for us that we could split. So him and I, we each get $10,000, and then we feel at this kind of stabilized point where we could from there make the next business decision. And what that looks like beyond that vision is something that him and I are still currently developing, but it has a timestamp, right? May 2026, $20,000 in net cash flow. And that's, as a person who's putting together a portfolio, you need to know that vision. You need to know what is the next step, what is the ultimate goal, actually, and more so in regards to that, right? And then you also need to be able to bring that down granular. And we talk about that as we talk about building out 30, 60, 90-day goals, those types of things. But you need to know, like, all right, what does that vision entail? What types of properties are we going to be buying, right? What does the team look like? Is it just me? Am I the only one that's in this? And I'm, third party hiring, property management, project management, contractors, all this other stuff. Or am I building out an actual team? In my case, I am building out an actual team. Steve and I are co-owners of our LLC. We brought on someone to run our property management division, and I work with her every single week. We go out on our one-on-ones. We talk about, we meet the right people for Section 8. We meet the right people for, the other community programs, all of that stuff. We talk about the tenants that we have. We talk about the non-paying tenants that we have. We talk about the evictions that we have to file and the evictions that we're currently going through. All of that stuff goes in there. We also have a person on our team who is in our acquisitions department. And all this stuff is all part of the vision. What does the vision look like? What does your team look like? What does your day in and day out output of the business look like? Are you someone who's in the field every single day? Or are you not? Are you more on the back end, right? And that's kind of me and Steve's dynamic a little bit, is I am more so on the back end and more of the overseer of a lot of things. I oversee all the different departments. I oversee the acquisitions. I oversee the refinances. I oversee, how the property management division is going. I oversee how the acquisition division is going. Where Steve is more boots on the ground. He's in the houses every single day with our contractors, right? Working with them. Do our contractors have all the material they need? Do they have all of this stuff? So the vision is also aligned in regards to what our roles are, right? And what that looks like long term. Because now that we have our roles broken out, we need to have vision on what those roles look like and what they're actually going to accomplish. So number one is you need to have the vision for where you want the portfolio to go and what that portfolio does for you, right? Like that $20,000 that comes in and we're able to split that 10 G's each month, that gives us stability, right? And as a father, as a husband, like who has bills, who has responsibilities, that's the stability that I chase in regards to our goal. And that's the ultimate vision, right? So number one is you got to have the vision. You got to know where it's going to take you. And you don't need to know necessarily like where you're going to be in 10 years, but where does kind of the line stop in that regard? And then what could possibly be next? Number two is temperance. Temperance, I think, is really, really important as a portfolio runner and owner, because a lot of times when you are building a portfolio, right? In a portfolio, we're talking, I'm not just saying like 5 properties here, right? I'm talking like 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, like you're starting to actually scale, you're getting your numbers up. And not saying that 5 properties, you won't have these types of problems anyway, because temperance is just an internal thing that anybody could work on at any given moment. You don't need to run a portfolio to work on temperance. I promise you that. But when you're running a portfolio, a lot of times things tend to feel like there's fires every single place that you look, right? Like I literally, some days, like today, knock on wood, I'm knocking on wood right now, because at this moment at 11 o'clock of this recording, the day has actually gone really, really well. But in a very short period of time, things could change and we could get 3 requests from tenants about, leaky water heaters and, smelling of fire and, other disastrous things. And then we could also get reached out to from our lender about, not so positive news. And these things all tend to happen. And as these things happen, it's very easy to fall into this, oh my gosh, everything is falling apart. This is total chaos. This is never going to work. This is a disaster. We should just back out and sell the entire thing. These are all thoughts that, by the way, go through my head on a daily basis. But temperance is really, really needed because you need to understand that you need to be able to prioritize and execute. And you need to understand that you can't get overwhelmed. Everything is a task that just needs to be accomplished and need to be completed. And you need to keep that in mind. So you need to remain very, very level-headed, and you need to just take everything for what it is, very stoic approach of, hey, all right, this tenant's got this problem. What are we going to do to fix it? We have to call our contractor in there. Cool. How fast can we get them in there? How can we make sure that we still provide the best quality service, even though this went wrong? And how can we get this fixed as soon as possible? Oh, our lender has this issue and our deal's getting blown up a little bit. What can we do to help our lender out so we can get this across the finish line? Everything could be taken as an opportunity, right? What's an opportunity for me to learn from this mistake? How do I create a standard operating procedure around it? All of these things, very level-headed, very relaxed. And it's not easy, all right? And as time goes on, and as I've been in this for 10 months, I remember having these exact feelings on the very first deal. The first deal that we were doing, right? You have these emotions of everything is falling apart when things go wrong. And it's the same exact thing when you have your 10th deal and you have your 15th deal and you have your 20th deal, right? So stay very level-headed. Temperance is one of those absolute key factors that you need when you're running a portfolio, because the more properties, right? It's like what Biggie Smalls said, right? He said, more money, more problems, more properties, more problems. That's usually how this works, right? So you need to understand that when you add more properties to the portfolio, you're opening yourself up for more problems, for things that you haven't faced yet, for things that you're not sure how to handle. You need to remain very, very calm, very poised, and understand that you just take the task and you respond to it and you do your best to accomplish it. Number 3 is fortitude, and that kind of goes off of that line, right? Fortitude is that resistance to quit, right? You just do not quit. You continue to go and you dog it out and you continue to push forward. And I cannot say this enough. Fortitude is actually one of our one of our core values in D&D Equities. D&D Equities has 5 core values, and fortitude is one of them, because we constantly are faced with adversity. It's nonstop. Like literally, there is not a day that goes by where there isn't some form of adversity, whether it's through project management, property management, lending, acquisition, closing, whatever it might be. There's some sort of problems every single day that happens, and you need to push through, right? You need to push through. Every single problem, again, like I mentioned, presents an opportunity to learn and to grow from. So you need to have that fortitude, because it's going to get hard. And there's going to be times where it just feels like this is never going to happen. It's never going to actually come to fruition. And the more that you push through, eventually you get through that adversity. And the more you just continue to do that, you're going to just look back and be like, wow, look at everything that we built, right? Like I remember we faced adversity on our first deal, on our second deal, on our third deal. If we would have stopped at our third deal, cool, we would have had 3 houses. But now that I look back, we're like, oh, cool, we have 17 houses or 16 houses. It's to a degree where I can't even keep count of how many houses we have, right? And that's because of the fortitude. That's because you just keep that dog mentality of I'm going to fight through the trench fight and I'm going to get to where I need to be. 4th one is prudence. And this is one, truthfully, that I've actually struggled with a little bit. And when you say prudence, I want you to think in terms of just being very, very conscious of the decisions that you make, and you don't jump the gun, right? And I think when Steve and I first started buying properties, we jumped the gun a little bit. We might have we bit off a little bit more than we could chew. And I'm not saying that was a bad thing. I don't regret any decisions that we made necessarily, because we are a lot closer to our goal because of the decisions that we made, even if we weren't necessarily ready to make them. But I look back on some of those decisions and I'm like, well, now we're in a little bit of playing from behind in some of those cases because of certain decisions that we made. Excuse me. And again, not a bad thing, but you want to be prudent in your decisions. You want to be prudent on the properties you buy. You want to be prudent on the money that you spend. You want to be prudent on the way that you spend that money. You want to be prudent on the people that you bring onto your team, right? This is all part of that. So you need to operate with prudence in every decision that you make. And prudence doesn't mean that you don't take action. It doesn't mean that you overanalyze, right? You have to take action. You have to continue to move when building a portfolio. If you stay still, sometimes staying still is a good thing. It could be a positive. It could actually help with some healing and help you kind of get your footing again. But staying still for too long could kill you in scaling a portfolio, right? You're going to miss opportunities. It's going to set you behind, and things could actually go from bad to worse sometimes when you stay still too quickly. But you need to be prudent in the decisions that you make. You don't want to make bad decisions, because sometimes one bad decision could really, really set you back when scaling a portfolio. So it's really important that you're prudent in your decisions, but you also take action when that action is deemed and called for. The fifth one, this is a very, very important one, is people. The people around you make the portfolio, right? And people is in a lot of different forms. And the first kind of surface level of people is the people directly, you're pretty much your nuclear family of your portfolio, right? So let's talk that through. Number one, it's you, right? You are the first person in that people of, this whole breakdown of what's needed to scale a portfolio. So you need to work on yourself, right? You need to make sure that you are in the best possible position to take on scaling a portfolio and to do it in the most accurate way possible. Second is any partners, right? In my situation, it's my boy Steve. He is the second person in this people equation, right? Is he fully equipped to take on scaling a portfolio? If there's me and it's him, and I'm 100% equipped and he's 100% equipped, we might not necessarily need anybody else. But if we are not 100% equipped in certain aspects, then you may need to bring on additional people. And that's why we brought on an additional person to help in property management. And we brought on an additional person to help in acquisitions, not because we can't do the job, but because of the bandwidth, right? We don't necessarily have the bandwidth to do those jobs to the best of our ability. So we bring on people to help in those situations. So that kind of builds out the nuclear a little bit, right? Within the company, there's people that's really important in that company that helps run that company, helps that company flourish. And they're a very, very critical piece to the overall health and success of the portfolio scaling. Let's build that out a little bit more, right? Who else is in that group? Your lenders. It's important that you have great lender connections when you're scaling a portfolio. These lenders come in a bunch of different forms. Hard money lenders, number one. Private money lenders, number two. And DSCR lenders, number three, in the case of the BRRRR, right? And if you're scaling a portfolio using some different strategies, then you might not necessarily need any of those lenders. Lenders might not even be a piece of the people within your kind of nucleus, right? But lending could absolutely be one of those people for your portfolio scaling. Agents could be another, right? If you rely on agents to bring you deals, well, guess what? You can't scale a portfolio if you don't have deals. The agents are a huge piece of that people, right? Of that people aspect. Brokers, things along those lines. Attorneys in certain cases, accountants, right? An accountant, let me tell you something right now. I'm learning this. I'm feeling this hardcore right now is one thing that we've let slip while we were scaling this portfolio over the past 10 months was bookkeeping and accounting. I personally, being someone who oversees it, this is on me. This falls on my plate. I should have been a little bit more prudent in a sense, and a little more visionary of the fact that we need to be keeping better books. We need to be setting ourselves up for success and strategically planning. And now we're coming into tax season and we're playing catch up. So accounting, bookkeeping, right? Those are a bookkeeper. Those are people that are part of the team. Attorneys, as I mentioned, all of those people that are kind of, again, building out that nucleus a little bit more. And then if you continue to expand that, if you were in the scaling up portfolio that requires tenants game, your tenants are part of those people as well, right? Because your tenants not automatically, they literally are your bottom line. If your tenant doesn't pay, boom, negatively affects your bottom line. If your tenant pays, oh, great, positively affects your bottom line. So the tenants, who are you putting into these renovated units? They are a huge, huge piece of the people, portion of what's needed to scale a real estate portfolio. So you got to understand that. You got to know who those people are that are key attributors to your success and build around them, develop them, bring them into the team, make sure that they're a part of it. Number 6 is discipline. Discipline is so, so critical when it comes to scaling a portfolio because sometimes, and this could go both ways, you could have a really, really successful month right? Where you get, you onboard some tenants, you got some cash that's coming in, you have a delay in some mortgages because you've refinanced the properties. All of a sudden you got this little influx in cash. And then you say, you know what, we're going to take this and we're going to go and we're going to cash ourselves out and we're going to go spend it. And now all of a sudden you have a massive pipe that breaks in one of your houses the next month, and you got, a flood problem, and you're dealing with a bunch of things, and now you're short on cash, right? But because you weren't disciplined with the money that you had in excess when you onboarded some new tenants and you had delay in mortgages, now you don't have that money anymore. And these things happen all the time. And pretty much any time that Steve and I have a conversation about money, we need to ask ourselves, okay, where is this money best spent? Right. And this goes back to, like, if you read like Richest Man in Babylon, or you read Rich Dad Poor Dad, like they say all the time, like every single dollar is a soldier at work, right? How is this soldier going to work for me today? And that's the way that you need to be thinking, right? Like, what is the most disciplined way to spend money? What is the most disciplined way to scale? What is the most disciplined way to structure the team? All of these things, you need to be disciplined, and you need to constantly be keeping an eye on it, and don't let yourself slip up, because those little slip ups, they start to accumulate. And when they accumulate, that's when you run into problems, and all of a sudden you're left holding the bag and you're short on cash, or you're short on time, or whatever the case might be, right? And you need to, another way to be disciplined, right, is in project management. And this is one thing too, that when we get into kind of more of the mechanism, we'll talk a little bit more about this in part two. But when you're scaling a portfolio, you got multiple renovations going on usually, right? You need to be disciplined with your money for those renovations. You need to be disciplined on those draw structures. You need to be disciplined on where the work needs to be prioritized and what needs to be done. You need to be disciplined on your timeline with your lenders. All of these things, you cannot be lax. If you are lax, you will die. That's how this works in running a portfolio, right? The more lax you are, the more problems you will have. Like, that's a better way of saying it, maybe. So stay disciplined. 7, organization. This is where Steve and I are just terrible. Just being totally honest with you. Well, neither of us are super organized. I'm not an unorganized person, but when it comes to like organizing multiple LLCs, those accounts, money going into the correct accounts, doing all that stuff, that is not my strong suit, nor is it Steve's, right? My strong suit is acquisitions, finding banger deals, locking them up, getting them under contract and closing those deals. That's my wheelhouse, where Steve's is project management, right? Getting into those deals, doing the renovations with the contractors, getting those properties ready to go. And then that's how we kind of operate. Those are our two strong suits in regards to that. I also thrive a little bit more on like leadership and entrepreneurship. That's why I like more of the business ops side of things as well. Organization is not one of either of those, right? And what we've realized the hard way is you got to be organized. You got to be organized with your asset protection. You got to be organized with your asset management. You got to be organized with your books and keeping things clean. You got to be organized with your tenants and all of their documents. You got to be organized with your contractors and their payouts. You got to be organized with every single thing that should be in, whether it's Google Drives or whatever the case is, right? You need to ask yourself, if I died today, would my business survive? And if you pass away and your partner has no idea where to find the deeds to these properties or where to find all of this stuff, then you're not organized. And that's the way you need to be thinking. So organization, I cannot emphasize enough, is super, super huge. And the last one, number 8, another core value of D&D equities is consistency. You need to be consistent. You need to understand that when you're scaling a portfolio, it's not going to be sunshine and rainbows. It's just not. It's going to be chaos. It's going to be pandemonium. It's going to be total disruption, but that's how it's supposed to be. And you need to show up every single day and put the work in. And if you do that, what you'll see is you take these baby steps, these little baby steps every single day. And eventually you're going to look back and you'll be like, wow, amidst all of that chaos and all of that craziness and all those times where it just seemed like the place was on fire and we weren't going to make it out alive, I'm looking back now and I'm like, look at what we built. Look at all of the positive things that have come from this. Look at all of the growth that's happened. And it's all happened because of consistency, because of staying the course, not deviating from the path, looking down the field and putting your head down and trucking through. That is where it all starts, and that's where it all ends, when you show up every single day and you make it happen. And it falls on you, guys. The buck stops with you. If you are growing a portfolio, you need to understand that. There are no excuses. You can't blame anybody. You can't point the finger. If there's mess ups, it's because of you. It's because you didn't take the proper ownership and you didn't take the proper action. And when you are consistent and you show up every single day and you make it happen, there's going to be that growth and you're going to take a lot of pride in what you're building. So that is it. Those are the 8 points of more of the internal to building and scaling a portfolio. Number 1, vision. Number 2, temperance. 3, fortitude. 4, prudence. 5, people. 6, discipline. 7, organization. And 8, consistency. So next episode, we are going to be breaking down the mechanism that I use, the BRRRR strategy, to actually scale a portfolio, and how you could start utilizing that same mechanism to grow a portfolio in 2025 and beyond. So I'm very excited for that. I appreciate everybody listening. I'm happy to be back. The flu, again, had me down for a little bit, but we kicked it to the curb. Hopefully it stays there. And pray the rosary, buy real estate, guys. Pray the rosary, buy real estate. If you want to come out on February 11th, I'd love to have you guys out there. Again, it's at the Tap Room in Haddon Township. It's going to be awesome. If not, join the movement. Make sure you're praying your rosary every single day. Grow closer to Jesus and Mary, and make sure you're buying real estate. Give yourself and your kids financial freedom and generational wealth. I'll see you guys later. Peace out.